What? Sonic the Hedgehog has always had, well, I wouldn't exactly say Sonic has always had co-op modes, but rather Sonic games have always had a way for the second player to interact with the game. In early 2D Sonic games, really the most you had when it came to actually playing with another person cooperatively was the second player being able to control Tails, which sounds great! Until you realize the camera actually doesn't follow Tails at all and he constantly respawns after being left behind. Now, of course, I'd rather this stuff be in the game than not, but let's be honest here, it's only really one step above giving some kid a controller that isn't even plugged into the console while you play. The best part of these co-op features is really just letting player 2 use Tails to fly player 1 up to somewhere, which is good co-op design, I think. I don't know, I'm not a game dev. Okay, I am a game dev sort of, but not a good one. But because Tails keeps on being left behind off screen, it always kind of just feels cumbersome to organize. Especially when you realize player 1 can do this on their own in the one game where it actually works, so like, what's the point? The first Sonic game to have actual co-op gameplay that is actually functional is, I don't know. I think it's really... I don't want to talk about this game, not because I dislike it, but instead I think the game and its co-op are decent, and I don't want to be murdered for talking positively about a Sonic 4 game. Okay, why are you digging out a cave under my apartment? Or well, not really my apartment, I don't own the building, but hey, you can't just make this your home base cave thing, it's... Okay, fine, you can stay here, but, you know, I can't get out of your hair until you help me out of here. Maybe we can work together cooperatively to get me out of here with the magic of Yep, okay, no, that's a no. Sonic 4 Episode 2's co-op is good. It's good. Like the rest of the game, it's good. Not great, not bad. The game's co-op feature does the generic co-op platformer thing that forces both players to be near each other. When one player falls off the screen, they kind of just zip to the other player and float there until they press the A button when they're ready to jump back in. Which, despite what a lot of people say, I do think that's a good thing, even in a Sonic game. I get the want for a Sonic game where the co-op is fully online without restrictions on where players can go, but in such a high-speed game where both players are bound to get separated at some point, I have to ask, what part of that is co-op, then? Look, I love this game, alright? Easily the best Sonic fan game ever made in my opinion, and its multiplayer is even more fun. It's a great online fandom space. You get to run around through the campaigns levels, or even custom campaigns with any modded characters a server might have, all while hanging out with a bunch of Sonic fans also running through these levels. However, despite there being a multiplayer mode for the game that isn't competitive at all, I find it hard to really call this a co-op mode in any sense because, well, Sonic characters are fast, so like, you know, people are going to be sticking together, everyone's going to be split up, and you'll only occasionally see other people after a certain point. This gets even worse when it's an experienced player trying to show a new player the game because either A, the new player constantly gets left behind and dies, or B, the experienced player gets bored constantly from having to stop moving for this other person in a Sonic game. It's like Sonic 2's co-op, except here instead of Tails flying back to Sonic when he's off screen, Tails is allowed to just get lost in a mall. The only way this game is co-op is if you have someone playing as Tails willing to fly someone over a bunch of gameplay, and even then that's still going to feel way too stop-and-go-esque for a Sonic game. What? What do you mean Sonic 4 wasn't the first real co-op Sonic game? Okay, fine, the first Sonic co-op game was... Sonic Advance 3? Just a disclaimer, I haven't actually had the chance to play the co-op for this game, but based on the footage online of it, it certainly seems like a multiplayer mode. Not sure if I'd call it co-op because, well, again, both players are just totally separated most of the time because of the lack of restriction. Sonic is just too fast of a game to have zero restrictions on a co-op mode while still keeping it feeling like a co-op mode. I wish I had more to comment on Advance 3, but I don't, since, well, 1, I haven't even played through its co-op or even the whole game on its own, and 2, it's just the basic 2 players in 1 level thing where all that needs to happen is one player hits the goal and both move on to the next level. At least from the video footage I saw. Who knows, I haven't played it though, so maybe there's some telepathic whatever the game has that just beams stuff in your brain that forces you and your friend to try and stick together, or I don't know. It does kinda suck though. Advance 3's concept lends itself very well to co-op, with the whole combine 2 characters thing. Oh well. Sonic Lost World. And I don't actually have anything to say here. Google said it was a cooperative Sonic game, but all I'm finding when I look deeper into it is it's 2-player races, which don't particularly seem like a co-op mode, although these do look kind of interesting actually. Ah yes, the co-op mode I'm sure most of you associate with those old Shadow 759 videos. Or I think so at least. I can't really find any of the ones I'm thinking of online now for some reason, so anyways, Sonic 06! I don't know how to feel about Sonic 06's co-op. I haven't played this also, by the way, or if I have, then I don't remember it. It's likely that I have and I just don't remember. But anyways, I'm not gonna try and comment on the execution of it, just the concept of it. On surface level, it looks pretty terrible for a Sonic game. It takes a very unique approach by changing the level design to block your access to the rest of the level or to springs and such until both players work together in some way. Stuff like clearing out a room full of enemies together, or pressing 2 switches at the same time, or holding one switch while the other player does something while that switch is held. Basically think of a more basic, less puzzle-esque version of Portal 2's co-op. But anyways, yeah, this feels like it'd be very stop and go-y, and not very fast-paced at all. Sure, it keeps the players all together, but at the cost of the flow of the game. Unless, what if you actively try to speedrun these parts? Like you would do in any other single-player Sonic game. I could see this type of level design working really well to capture the precise movements and actions that Sonic games require of you if you want those S ranks. Except here it would require both players to both be precise and quick, as well as be able to move and work together efficiently to figure out stuff like who's gonna do what or what to do next. Along with the 2 players having to coordinate to stick together from co-op segment to co-op segment so they don't waste time. Again, to draw comparisons to Portal 2, I could see a Sonic co-op mode structured like Sonic 06's co-op mode being almost like a more accessible version of speedrunning Portal 2's co-op. We might find the best co-op here actually, at least conceptually, is what I would say if this looked like something that would be very fun to play through the first time around. Again, haven't played through this co-op mode so I don't know for sure, but this doesn't look like it would be very fun to play through for the first time. A good Sonic game typically is fun to play through the first time around, and then gets even more fun to play through on repeat playthroughs after learning the levels. But when the first playthrough isn't fun, you're probably not going to want to learn these levels. And that's why I think Sonic's quill length... What? Do you not like hearing me talk about Sonic? I mean, that is kind of my thing, so I'm not quite sure what you... Ah! Okay, I talked about My Little Pony last time also. I talk about more than just Sonic sometimes too, I lied. Huh? Finally, the last Sonic co-op game. Totally. And the best implementation of it, in my opinion. Sonic Superstars has co-op that actually keeps the players together, and it's a lot of fun. It actually feels like I'm playing this game with someone else, rather than just at the same time as someone else. Basically, the camera tries its best to keep both players in sight, but eventually if one character does fall off the screen, they can press a button to jump back in when they're ready, with no delay, with the exception of when they die, in which case there is a delay. It's basically the same as Sonic 4 Episode 2's co-op, but I don't know. Something about this just feels a lot better. Maybe it's just because Sonic Superstars is an overall better game than Sonic 4 Episode 2, but I don't know. But anyways, this game is a lot of fun with someone else. The way in which it's done doesn't break the momentum or speed at all. Well, excluding the times where the camera focuses on the person behind the other player, but aside from that, it's great. Superstars as a whole I feel like was just way better than people usually give it credit for. I really like the game, but anyways, that's not what this video is about. We're focusing on the co-op, not the game. Well, we are focusing on the game kinda, but still. Anyways, again, yeah, I think we have the absolute best co-op right here. Sonic isn't really a franchise that lends itself very well to co-op, but it can be done when it's done right. It's a lot of fun. Despite this being the best co-op, it is the least interesting execution of it though. I would love to see some older ideas improved upon, like the Sonic 06 change level design mentality, or the... Oh, wait, what's that music? Oh, how could I forget? The actual first Sonic co-op game, and the game that did Sonic co-op the best! Yeah, I don't care what anyone says about this game. It is the best implementation of co-op in any Sonic game ever, and it needs to come back right now. Knuckles Chaotix has a rubber band mechanic between the two characters that binds them together through the power of physics or something. I don't know anything about physics. The way the rubber band mechanic functions between the two characters in this game lends itself perfectly to co-op. Not only is there an explanation for the characters being forced together, it also feels natural. In a physics-based speedy platformer like these 2D Sonic games, the rubber band mechanic feels right at home as a way to keep the players together. And just like any other mechanic in these older 2D Sonic games, with stuff like rolling or loops, there are ways you can take advantage of this mechanic's physics in multiple ways. You can use it to gain speed or to bounce a player up to a higher platform. This is even more well executed with the inclusion of stuff like holding and throwing your buddy, or holding again, but this time by crouching to keep yourself in place while the other player can run around freely. Both of these allowing you to build speed in different ways, or even to just control yourself a bit better after lots of being flung around at high speeds. It requires actual cooperation. Yes, Knuckles Chaotix is not the greatest game, but that's not because of its mechanics, especially when you play the game in co-op where both characters are controlled by someone. The game's issues, at least for me, always came from it just being too long and all the levels feeling the same because of its whole fixed difficulty thing, since you can end up in any level at any time, making the game boring after a certain point. The rubber band mechanics, or as it's apparently called, the combi ring, was never the problem. It even works in 3D. There's a mod that brings this in SRB2's multiplayer and it's a lot of fun and it works great.
Or something.
I'm trying, I can see the goal right there. No, you keep pulling me back. I see you through the window. Hello?
Hi.
I don't think this is supposed to work like this. Easily because of all of this, I would consider Knuckles Chaotix's combi ring co-op mechanics to be the best in the series. It's just that it was put into one of the less than great games in the franchise, unfortunately, which is why it should have 100% be given another chance to shine in a new game. Something about a conclusive ending.